February 9th, 9:47 a.m. District Court. Defendant Lobby number 1.
Oh my, Mr. Release feels that way about me.
Apparently, he isn't aware of your real secret at all. There's no time to be embarrassed.
I'm sorry. I'm just hardly accustomed to that sort of thing.
Worry not. In any case, whatever it was that he saw on the night of the incident, mark my words, I will drag it out of him.
Does that mean Mr. Release is the witness today?
No, I believe that none will be the first to take the stand.
Stop again.
She claims to have seen the very instant in which you carried out the crime. I just want to ask you one last time. It really wasn't you who killed Mr. East Denham, correct?
That is correct. It wasn't me.
Very well then.
Mr. Edgeworth.
Yes?
You are a prosecutor, aren't you? Are you sure about this? If your true identity is revealed.
Don't worry, I have made the necessary arrangements.
I see.
Iris, it is a prosecutor's job to doubt people. But right now, I am a defense attorney. A defense attorney's job is to believe in people, and to believe until the bitter end. That's what my friend told me once.
Mr. Edgeworth!
I simply ask that you watch and decide for yourself whether or not I am fit to do the task I have been entrusted.
Very well, sir. I leave my defense in your capable hands.
Court is now in session with the trial of Sister Iris of Hascure Temple. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The defense does indeed appear to be ready. However, the same cannot be said for the prosecution in this case. Indeed. I'm not sure I like such a blatant waste of this court's time. An empty prosecutor's chair can only mean that the prosecutor has no confidence in their ability to prove their case. It would seem this case is already over before I do a chance to begin. I am ready to announce my verdict at this time. This court finds the defendant.
Objection!
The prosecution stands ready. And you are? Francesca Von Karma, prosecuting prodigy. Von Karma, you say? Perchance you wouldn't be one of your relation to the legendary prosecutor Manfred Von Karma. Legends are a thing of the past. I am a Von Karma, that is all. Upon a special request I flew in today for the purposes of prosecuting this case. You did? Then you must be quite a big shot, eh? By the way, Mr. Edgeworth. Yes, Your Honor. I'm almost certain that I've seen you somewhere before. Or am I just imagining things? You look very much like a prosecutor I met once. I believe you are imagining things, Your Honor. Miss Von Karma, do you have anything to say? There's no such weakling as this man among those of the prosecutor's office. There isn't? But I'm sure once before in this court... Ah! I told you there is no such weakling. What is that? A whip? I'm not sure I care for such a thing in my courtroom. But bailiff, remove that whip at...
Hold it!
I have no objection to the whip. You don't? The prosecution can wield the whip or drink 17 cups of coffee. But there is still only one truth. That is why I stand here to prove today. This promises to be interesting, Miles Edgeworth. I had expected to face Phoenix right here today. But looking at you now, maybe this is what I have been waiting for all this time. Miles Edgeworth, I will not allow this chance to crush you slip through my fingers. I see you brought your flair for the histrionic. Let me add the things I'm not sure about. People acting bizarrely in my court. Ah, waha! The stage is set. Now continue with the proceedings, Your Honor. Very well, Miss Von Karma, please give an outline of the case, with as little as whipping possible. The murder victim is the famed picture book author, Mrs. Dunham. Her body was found in the Hazaka temple courtyard. She had been stabbed through the torso by a ceremonial sword from a golden statue. The sword in this picture is the weapon in question, eh? Very well. The court accepts this photo of the crime scene. There's no mistake. This was the doing of Sister Iris. After all, there is a witness to her crime. Very well. Please bring this witness to the stand. And so it begins, my first and last trial as a defense attorney. Witness, state your name and occupation, please. Hold on here, I'm not sure about being not sure if I care for this at all. Witness, please stand up nice and straight. If I recall correctly, there are a few milk crates in the defendant's lobby for our back pain-plagued witness. Bailiff, fetch a crate for this poor lady, eh? Once again, your name and occupation, please.
Little on me. Well, I'm the head nun of Hazakura Temple on the Eagle Mountain. My name is Bikini. You got it? Bikini. Nice to meet everyone.
But you don't appear to be wearing a bikini right now. Ah! The courtroom is the garden of holy judgment. Those with literature in their hearts should leave this sanctuary at once. You want me to leave?
No need to get your bikinis in a twist. Let me tell you, I am a sight to behold in summer.
In any case, witness, I heard that you saw the crime take place on the night in question.
That's right. I can still hardly believe it myself, to be honest. There's no way their little Iris could do anything like that.
Let us hear what you had to say then. First, tell us about your own movements that night, eh?
That night I was helping an acolyte with her training in the inner temple, but, well, as you can see, my back likes to act up, violently. So I left Iris to help the acolyte and returned to Hazakura Temple. There's no bath at the inner temple, you see, and I needed a long, hot soak. It was after I had finished, just as I was heading back. That's when I saw it!
So it was simply coincident you found yourself returned to Hazakura Temple, eh?
Yes, you could say that. If my back hadn't been in so much pain, I would have stayed at the inner temple.
That sounds like a pretty important statement you just made. There's only one problem with this testimony that I can see. And you're not about to fall at the first hurdle. Now are you, Miles Edwards?
But,
Mr. Edwards, please begin your cross-examination.
that night I was helping an acolyte with her training in the inner temple. But,
what is this inner temple?
well, you see, conversing with the spirits is what we train people to do, right?
We'll be the one asking you the questions, madam.
In order to do that, a place strong in spiritual power is required. There's a small temple across Dusky Bridge called the Inner Temple. Acolytes must spend an entire night there to undergo intense training.
And how exactly do you help with this process?
It is all quite exacting. It can't be performed without a nun supervising.
Like a tutor watching to make sure a spoiled child studies. A tutor with a whip in your case. If that is the case, then why did you return to Hazakura Temple, where the murder took place?
Well, as you can see, my back likes to act up. Violently.
Violently?
That's right. It's no laughing matter, especially in winter. I can't hold anything heavier than a knife and fork during the cold months. Just being alive is like strict training.
On the night of the murder, was this fabulous back of yours hurting again?
That's right. Raging like a bull in a pig pen, I almost fainted once or twice. I just knew that unless I warmed it up, it was going to finally finish me off. So I left Iris to help the acolyte and returned to Hazakura Temple.
You left Iris to help? With what?
What do you think? I am the acolyte's training, of course. It was just past 10 p.m., so we were starting to enter into the training exercises proper.
Wasn't it your place to remain with the disciple?
Well, the job is simply to watch over the acolytes so they don't pass away.
Just to confirm this point again, that night you met Iris in the inner temple, correct?
Yes, yes, she's a gentle, honest girl. She's never once failed to follow my directions. There's no bath at the inner temple, you see, and I needed a long, hot soak.
So you returned to the Hazukra temple in order to take a bath.
My back is to blame for everything. It's a do or be done in kind of world, after all.
How long were you in the bath for, if you don't mind me asking?
But my, what a filthy little rogue you are! I know what's on your mind. But I bet your next question is going to be, where exactly did you wash? Ah, this is why you had to watch the young ones.
But what are you going on about? Pathetic, Miles Edgeverse. The lowest of the low. Is there some sort of kick-me sign stuck to defend this bench?
Anyway, I couldn't afford to be away from my post for too long, you understand, so... It was after I had finished, just as I was heading back. That's when I saw it.
The crime took place in the courtyard, correct?
When you go from my room to the main hall, you have to take a winding hallway from which you can see the courtyard.
That's right. In other words, it was pure coincidence that the witness saw the crime taking place before our eyes. There was no complicated setup in this case. That certainly seems to be true. There is indeed only one problem with this testimony. If I can clearly point out what it is, then I can begin to quantify just how good this witness's memory and observation skills are. Very easy. This statement conflicts with Iris's testimony. Witnesses have to undergo their own trials, I'm afraid. The defendant's fate rests on their powers of observation and memory, after all.
Well, don't worry, I'm more than up to the task. I'm a woman of faith, after all, the head honcho of Hazukura Temple.
In that case, Miss Honcho, I'd like you to explain something for me. The discrepancy between her testimony and that of the defendant, Iris. She claims that after ringing the lights out bell, she went back and stayed in her room. Which means she did not go to the temple at all.
No! She said that!
A defendant or a witness? Who is more likely to lie, do you suppose? The defendant is simply lying to cover her back. But that is completely illogical. The murder was committed in the courtyard of Hazukura Temple. Claiming that she went to the inner temple would make for a much better alibi.
But that is odd. Whatever the reason, I can't believe that she would lie.
He does indeed have honest eyes. Well, all people lie. That is my belief. Why am I the only one being whipped in here, eh? Anyway, neither the witness nor the defendant have any reason to lie, which means we must call your memory into question.
Dear. You're older than me and yet you want to play that game, do you?
Well, this isn't exactly what I...
My memory is perfect, crystal clear, especially in winter.
Then, I suppose it's too early to end this cross-examination, eh? Mr. Edgeworth, if you are going to question the memory of this witness, you will need to show me a more decisive piece of evidence.
Understood, Your Honor.
I was naive to think that that alone would do the trick. Then please add your comments about Iris to the testimony. And let us return to the cross-examination, eh?
That night I was helping Acolyte with the training in the inner temple, but... Well, as you can see, Iris came to the inner temple. She was dressed exactly as she had been at dinner.
Are you sure that you're not making a mistake?
You, young man, need to get your estimation of me up from the floor. And, Iris always wears the same clothes. The smallest thing out of place would have stood out like a sore thumb to me. You're making a mistake, thinking I made a mistake.
An excellent finish there, witness. Still, I have to wonder. Another mistake. How do you explain this, witness? Witness, let's get one thing straight. The defendant whom you claim to have met, she was wearing this demon-warding hood, correct?
Of course! That is a very important piece of clothing, I'll have you know. Wait a minute.
Hold it right there. Why do you have that? That's the question of the day now, isn't it, Miss Von Karma? I'll have you know that this hood was given to someone as a gift that night, before the lights out bell was rung.
What?
You know where I'm going with this, don't you? If the witness had seen the defendant as she claims, then the iris she saw should have been missing this very hood.
Well!
It's not a bad feeling at all, exposing contradiction like this. Now I understand that happy look on Wright's face every time he does it. Order in the court! Witness, you're Sister, this hood, you have spare ones around the temple, don't you?
Spares? Well, I do tend to make too many of them.
I see! A stockpile! A surplus of hoods, eh?
Each son is only given one hood. This should be the only hood that Iris owned.
Then this is quite strange. Wow! If there was a surplus of hoods, then she could have worn one of those. There's no contradiction here. I'm sorry to break this to you, Miss Von Karma, but you won't get away that easily. Discrepancies such as this will now sow seeds in any human heart. The seeds of doubt. Witness, while I don't wish to call your testimony doubt, you must give every detail with precision.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable going along with this.
Sister, you should continue with your testimony. Tell us what you saw after finishing your bath, on your way back to Inner Temple. Those seeds of doubt are sprouting in the judge's heart. They just need a little more stimulation to bear fruit. Contradictory stimulation.
I finished my bath around 11, and I thought I should return to the Inner Temple. And as I was walking back, I heard a noise from the courtyard. I took a look, and Iris was... Oh, Mr. Gillies! And with that sword of all things. Mr. Gillies was staying in the corner room, which faces out into the courtyard. The stabbing I saw must have occurred after she was pushed out of her window.
You saw a truly terrible sight, didn't you? If I was in your place, then it would be much like Miss Von Karma whipping Mr. Edgeworth in two in court. What? And me, seeing it all from this very chair. Well, something like that.
This judge,
his imagination is about as vivid and creative as Detective Gumshoe. I would look the fool if I commented on such foolishness. Anyway, this case is mine, Ms. Edgeworth. Calling everyone by their full name. Can't you do something about that habit of yours? Francesca Von Karma?
I finished my bath around 11, and I thought I should return to the Inner Temple.
How far is it from your room to the Inner Temple?
Let me think a moment. About 20 minutes on these stumps of mine. It's about 15 minutes to Dusky Bridge from Hazakura Temple. The Inner Temple is just beyond the bridge.
Still, you never made it back there that night, did you?
That's right. I was heading along the walkway towards the main hall. And as I was walking back, I heard a noise from the courtyard. I took a look and...
You say you heard a noise?
Thump! Just like that.
That could only be the sound of the victim falling.
It's very quiet in the temple, you know. You can even hear the snow falling from the branches. Thump! Just like that.
But then, couldn't this noise you heard have been snow falling to the ground?
I never thought of that.
The next one to laugh gets a whipping.
Well, whatever the source of the sound, I looked over the courtyard and... Iris was... Oh, Mr. Gillies! And with that sword of all things...
This is the second time that the witness has testified to say the defendant. But, some doubt remains in these claims.
Hey, just what does that mean? Just because you're a good-looking young man doesn't give you the right to...
The murderer who stabbed the victim with the sword. Sister Bikini, try to recall exactly who it was he saw, as clearly as you can.
Well, you're a handsome young man, so I'll forgive you. Oh, now that you mention it, there was something awfully strange about her. Something that has been bugging me all this time.
Please, don't keep us in suspense.
Her head!
Her head.
That's right, it's coming back to me. Zvari! Iris! She wasn't wearing her hood. I thought something was out of place, but it all makes sense now, doesn't it? After all, she had given that hood away to someone, right?
Ha! You've dug your own grave, Miles Edgeworth. What do you say, Mr. Edgeworth? Is this testimony important? No. This line of questioning is only going to tear the wound open further. These statements are as useless as the investigation as a certain detective. There's no need to record them. Very well. Please, continue with your testimony.
Mr. Gillies was saying in the corner room, which faces out into the courtyard.
The room the victim was staying in overlooked the courtyard, correct? Which means the victim's room was on the second floor.
No, Hezgret Temple is a single-story building, but the mountain itself slopes downward, which elevates the main gate side of the temple and the guest rooms in the back to about the height of a two-story building.
I see. And the victim was staying in one of these elevated rooms, correct?
Yes, I should know. I'm the one who carried her things to her room, after all. The stabbing I saw must have occurred after she was pushed out of her window.
What makes you so sure of all this?
It's just like I told you earlier. I heard a noise from the courtyard, okay? Thump! Just like that.
You're one smart sister, I'll give you that. The autopsy report states that the victim's body was covered in bruises, indicating a fall from around 10 feet in height. It appears that the witness was not mistaken then.
Yep, I'm more than just a pretty face, especially in winter. I'm a woman of faith, after all, the head honcho of Hezgret Temple.
There's only two of them working there. What's wrong, Miles Edgeworth? No snappy comeback remark?
But
it doesn't feel like she is lying. This is very powerful testimony too. She claims to have seen the incident in which the defendant stabbed the victim. There are only two things I can believe in right now. My client, Iris, and my own abilities as a defense attorney. Let's see the autopsy report again. 10 to 11 p.m. Loss of blood from stabbing and back. Body felt 10. After death. Oh. The falling occurred after death. Intriguing. How do you explain this, witness? Impressive logic. That's what I'd like to say anyway.
Oh, please do! My brain is something else, especially in winter.
However, I think you are overlooking one thing. Miss Von Karma, would you be so kind as to take another look at the autopsy report? The autopsy report? The victim did fall from a height of 10 feet. However, this fall was after she was killed. That's right. It says after death right here. The scene the witness claims to have seen is contradictory. If the defendant stabbed and killed the victim there in the courtyard, how did the victim then go on to take a 10-foot fall? Order! The victim was killed and then fell. If that is the case, then the victim must have been killed in her room. Don't you agree? That is the logical conclusion. Yes, that's right. The victim must have been stabbed with the defendant in her room. And she was then thrown out of her window down into the courtyard below. Were there any signs of a struggle in Miss Denham's room? But she was stabbed with a sword. That would leave a blood stain, wouldn't you agree? Well, Miss Von Karma, was there any blood? No traces of blood were found in the victim's room. Your whip has just caused traces of blood to be found on my glorious playoff beard. However, if there was no blood in the room, then you claim that... I'm sure there's no need for me to go over this, as I'm sure your honor is well aware of when a stab wound produces the most blood. When it produces the most blood, very little blood is actually lost at the moment of a blade's insertion. If you want to talk about when the most blood would be lost from a body, that would be when the blade is removed. Indeed, with the weapon still in place, it acts like a lid on the wound. That's true. With the weapon still in the body, there wouldn't be much bleeding. A perfectly reasonable line of thinking. We have come to a conclusion then. The victim was thrown out of the window with the sword still in place. This removes all of the contradictions. Order, order, order! I must admit that this is a probable version of events. I'd expect no less from Francesca von Kammer. She locates and takes control of every vital point. It seems that we need a clear testimony from the witness. Remove all supposition on your part and tell us only the facts, please. Witness, please remain standing on the crate.
Don't go selling me short now. The weight of winter snow has bent me out of shape, especially my back and my mood.
Sister, please give us your testimony. I will give you a vigorous massage once we are finished here.
With the whip? Oh boy. Alright, alright. Things I do for young people. When I looked across at the scene, the sword was already in place. Thinking about it now, I didn't actually see her stab Mr. Khalees. I've never seen so much blood before. That's when I fainted. You can't blame me, can you? And when I awoke, Mystic Amy was stabbing Mr. Khalees through the back.
This all confirms Miss Von Karma's theory. Von Karma strive for nothing but perfection. Putting together such facts is nothing for me. You should know that, Maz Adverse. Perfection is an impossibility, Francesca Von Karma. And I'm here to teach you just that.
When I looked across at the scene, the sword was already in place.
At that time, was the victim bleeding?
Well, I was very shocked to be seeing all this, of course, so I'm not entirely sure. But I don't think I saw any blood. Not then.
I'm sure that you didn't. The weapon was acting as a plug in the wound. In any case, let's be clear on one very important point. Did you actually see the instant in which the victim was stabbed?
Thinking about it now, I didn't actually see her stab Mr. Khalees.
Think carefully, this is very important.
It's Iris we're talking about here. I'm thinking for all I'm worth. But no, when I looked over, the sword was already in Mr. Khalees' body.
It might not be conclusive, but this testimony supports her theory. The victim was stabbed in her room and then dropped into the courtyard. I think this proves it rather well, Maz Adverse.
I've never seen so much blood before.
So you're saying that you saw the victim's blood?
That's right. Some of it had splattered onto Iris too.
When the defendant was arrested, she was meditating in her room, and her blood-flecked clothing was neatly placed, folded in the corner. What? Her clothes were blood-flecked as well? That seems quite conclusive to me. What should I do? Press this point further? Sure. Going back to your previous statement, you said that you saw a little bleeding when the victim was stabbed. But now, you say you saw the victim bleeding.
Well, I say that what I saw is what I saw.
What do you see?
Maybe I didn't see the poor woman get stabbed, but I saw the girl pull the sword out of her. Plain as day.
Pulling the sword out?
Well, it wasn't exactly pulling. It was more like thrusting. It was more like it came out.
Witness, you will add the same into your testimony.
Oh, was that important?
More important than you can imagine.
I saw the instant in which the blade plunged into the hilt was smoothly drawn out.
Smoothly, you say? You're saying you saw the sword smoothly slide out?
That's right. The whole thing happened right next to the gold statue of Mystic Amy. Mr. Khalees was on the ground and Iris was stooped over her. The sword was bared up to the hilt. When Iris stood up, the sword in her hand just slid out of Mr. Khalees' body. It slid out from that gaping wound. Ah!
And it goes without saying that if the sword was removed there would be bleeding. Nothing out of place here. Is that really the case? I can't help but feel that something about this testimony is very out of place. That something which couldn't possibly have happened appears to have happened.
I've never seen so much blood before. That's when I fainted. You can't blame me, can you?
Now, on to what the killer did next. You saw none of it, correct?
Well, I was unconscious.
How long were you out for?
I don't know, 10, maybe 20 minutes. A young man with a very prickly looking head woke me up. By stepping on me, actually.
I'm not sure I like that method of resuscitation.
Well, I wasn't asking for mouth to mouth or anything of the sort. But I would have welcomed a more gentle awakening right about that, let me tell you.
I shall have words with the offender personally. What did you see upon awakening?
And when I woke, Mr. Amy was stabbing Mr. Gillies through the back.
By Mr. Amy, you are referring to the golden statue, correct?
Just stabbing someone with a Shichu, a sacred treasure, is terrible enough. But to then make Mystic Amy hold the blade?
Truly a heinous, despicable crime. It is easy to despise something, anyone can do it. However, there is something that cannot be done so easily. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's doubly hard for you. Anyway, what is the problem? Exactly why would the killer set up this gruesome scene? Can anyone explain the reasoning behind that? No, I don't think I can. There isn't always a logical reason behind why someone acts.
That's true, so true. In early spring, for example, I often find myself...
There isn't always... That phrase might come in handy someday. There are too many unnatural elements in this case. Why was it necessary to use the Shishitsu from the Amy statue as a weapon? Why was this weapon ultimately placed back in the hand of the statue? If I can expose the flaws in this testimony, perhaps then I will begin to find the truth. Intriguing. That's clearly impossible. Sister Bikini, you are a reliable witness. At least, I'd like to think so. But there are too many contradictions here.
What do you mean? You make it sound as though I'm a liar. But you're a handsome young man, so I'll forgive you.
What contradiction are you talking about? In the scene that the witness claims to have seen, the weapon was thrust up to its hilt onto the victim. Furthermore, the killer withdrew the weapon smoothly from the body. However, both of these are complete impossibilities. What do you mean? Please, explain explain yourself. To start with, do you think it would be possible to stab someone to the hilt with this? No matter how we look at the defendant, she doesn't appear strong enough with that. Doesn't appear? That's meaningless dribble. I too may appear to be weak and frail, but I can crush men under my heel and make them weep. So should I choose. The objection stands. I wiped a little back there, I must admit. That isn't the only issue here. If this sword was truly stabbed into the body up to the hilt, well, just look at all the branches on it. It certainly won't come out smoothly. That's... We also have the problem of the amount of bleeding. It's true that when a blade is left in a body, it acts as a plug of sorts. However, when the weapon is shaped like this, it's an entirely different story. The wound will be too large for the blade to completely stop the bleeding. That's nothing more than conjecture. In reality, the victim was stabbed with a Shishitsu. Even a weapon of this nature may still sometimes start out smoothly, and may still sometimes stop the blood loss. I'm not finished. There's still one more conclusive contradiction. You still got more? This one is simple. If this sword really was thrust in all the way to the hilt, why is there only blood on the tip of it? Ah! If this witness is telling the truth, then there should be blood along the entire length of the sword.
No! 9!
Order! Ah! Bravo, Mazajvas, raising this many contradictions from a single piece of evidence. Oh, the other attorneys I know could maybe manage one, if that. But what does it all mean? Yeah, proving accusations regarding the murder weapon, but having come this far, there can only be one answer. And that is... the weapon used to kill the victim was not the Chichichichu. What? A foolishly foolish idea born from the foolish mind of a foolhardy foolish fool. Let's examine this again. What was it that made us think this sword was the murder weapon?
Well, it's because Mystic Amy was holding it.
Exactly. However, if you reflect on this, that is the only basis we have to assume such a thing. The impression left by the scene was just too strong. That is what has influenced us. It influenced us to believe that the Shishichu was the murder weapon. Order! 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 Ah! So maybe the Shishichu was not the murder weapon. Even that is the case. This is nothing miles adverse. The sister here saw everything. She saw the defendant stab the victim with a sword-like object. That's true. Your response, Mr. Edgeworth? If that is so, I would like the prosecution to answer the obvious question it raises. The obvious question? Yes, namely, where did the real murder weapon disappear to? It goes without saying that the police searched the main hall and the surrounding area. Perhaps the prosecution can enlighten us as to if a sword-like object was found? That's... Answer the question, Miss Von Karma. No evidence of that kind was found. Another mystery to throw onto the pile, eh? A trial without a murder weapon is a tricky beast.
Excuse me, could I say something? I just remembered something, actually.
What is it, sister?
I was just thinking, it's possible, just maybe, what actually happened was, it was just over there.
What exactly are going on about here?
The murder weapon, I mean. Maybe, I think I might know where the sword was disposed of.
You what? Well then, I think we need to hear testimony from you one more time, sister.
Impossible!
What else could this old woman have seen?